Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. Welcome today to the review of the first of the two Seiko watches that I picked up recently. This one, the SNZH57, known to its mates as the Seiko 55 Fathoms, due to the fact that it bears more than a passing resemblance to a famous Blancpain. Now, there are a number of mods you can do to make this one look even more like a Blancpain if you so choose. I'm undecided as to whether I'm going to go that route in the future, but today this one fresh in and unmolested. And I only have one question. Why didn't I buy this watch sooner? It's gorgeous. Let's flip the camera and get a look at it. So, gorgeous and potentially my favourite Seiko. High praise indeed for a fairly inexpensive little watch today. I picked this one up for just over $130 US. I've added all three colourways, the black dial, the blue dial, and this gilt finished model into my Amazon shop. You'll find a link in the description below. I've also linked in the best price I could find on JOMW shop. This gilt one coming in at bang on $130 plus shipping. Not bad at all. So what am I going to do today then? Well, all the usual good stuff, lume shot, wrist shot, movement accuracy report. As you can see, I also tend to do a comprehensive strap fashion show on this one a little later on, but I probably better add some context, answer that question, why it has taken me so long to review this piece, and my Seiko journey so far then, how I got to this SNZH57 a little late in the day. Well, my Seiko journey itself only began about 12 months ago. I picked up an SNZG13J1 as my first Seiko, really enjoyed it, very nicely made watch, but a little large, so that one got flipped. I then picked up an SNKL23, the Hodinkee Special, the $75 watch that looks like $1 million. Gorgeous little thing, did me a lot of favours in terms of the channel as well. I modded it, added some sapphire, ostrich strap, but ultimately I flipped that one as well a couple of weeks back. I opened my friend's SKX 009, I then bought an 013 which I've modded not once but twice. I then picked up a 009 of my own which I then sold. You may also have noticed a 007 creeping in the back door. This one is going to be modded to within an inch of its life, hopefully in the next couple of weeks or so. I'm going to do the NH36 mod with that one. And I picked up and reviewed an SNK 809 which I then passed on to my colleague at work, Nick. So I've had a few Seikos then over the last 12 months, bit of a late starter, but this is number 8, I believe, if you count that lot up. Why did I not pick this one up sooner then, given that this is right up my street? It's got that new vintage, new retro look that I have paid an awful lot more money than the $130 that I paid for this one. Well, I guess the initial dimensions, that 42mm diameter I thought was going to be a little large for me, especially when combined with 22mm lug width. And also, I suppose, I got carried away with the cult of the SKX. I've had 4 SKXs in and out the house over the last 6 months or so, so you do tend to get sucked down that SKX rabbit hole, leaving little room for other Seikos at or around the same price point. But I should have known better than to worry too much about that diameter dimensions. Like a lot of Seikos, this one wears a lot better than that 42mm suggests. So 42mm in diameter, but only 47mm lug to lug, so wears very compactly. Just about 14mm thick today, and as mentioned, 22mm lug width. Tapering a little bit down to 20, and we've got the 22mm clasp there, which is kind of normal for these slightly larger size Seikos. That 22-20-22 dimension. This one's sized up for my 7-inch wrist on the supply bracelet, weighing in at 155 grams, so pretty much spot on for a dive style watch on a full stainless steel bracelet. Stainless steel case, crown, bezel and bracelet, as you would expect on a dive style watch at this price point. Nice Seiko standard finishing as well here. Very plain polish on the side. Unsigned crown today, I'll come back to that a little later on. Kind of cogwheel bezel, little bit of brushing on the lugs there as well. And actually a reasonably well integrated bracelet. Quite often I've critiqued Seikos for making no attempt to integrate the brushing, the finishing on the lugs of the bracelet, but this one is not too bad at all actually. So as I zoom in to talk about this very, very attractive looking dial, there is a picture of the Blancpain 50 Fathoms. You can see some similarities, shall we say. Very similar in terms of the bezel and the overall look. And the Blancpain was a 42mm when it was released back in the early 1950s, so this one pretty much aping the set of dimensions of the original watch on which it is stylistically inspired, shall we say. But as you can see there, this is a Seiko 5 sports model. This is not an out-and-out dive watch. I've referred to it as a dive style watch. And also you can see there just above the 6, only 100 meters of water resistance. That slightly undersized crown is not screwed down either. So it's an everyday watch, and certainly one that you can get wet, do a little bit of swimming, perhaps some snorkeling with, but you're not going to be taking this one to any great depths like you would the ISO certified SKX sibling. But what a dial. This thing is just gorgeous. Now, Hardlex crystal today, but we've got a kind of domed box Hardlex crystal. Lovely bit of distortion around the edges of the viewing angle as well. And the bezel insert is also a Hardlex painted underneath. So it's going to scratch. It's not going to be as scratch resistant as if it was sapphire. You're going to have to be a little bit more careful than that. But at this price point, I'm satisfied with Hardlex. I'll talk a little bit more about the value equation later on, but not too bad for the money. You've got an applied Seiko and 5 logo there, and some lovely indices. Look at those, especially the one at the 12 o'clock. A lot of different facets to it, a lot of different depth there, and a little bit of lume on the edges of those indices. I'll pop up a lume shot. Plenty of Seiko's proprietary Lume Bright on the hands. You even get a little bit of a lumed arrowhead on the second hand there as well today. Not so much on the indices, just little dots on the interior of those batons, but plenty of lume. Seiko's Lume Bright has a great reputation, and it is well deserved. The fact that those big sword-shaped hands have got plenty on should have a satisfying amount of lume throughout the night. So I'll pop a link and show you the case back. Now we've got a screw down case back here, giving the watch 100 meters of water resistance as mentioned. You've also got a display case back showing off the 7S36 movement. Now the 7S36 is a 23 jeweled version of the 7S26. They're pretty much the same movement. So this one doesn't hack, it doesn't hand wind, but you do have about 40-hour power reserve, 21,600 vibrations per hour leading to 6 ticks per second, and pretty accurate as well. I'll pop up a chart there. This one just over 2 weeks, mixture of winder time and rest time coming in at +5. Again, pretty incredible for an unregulated entry-level movement, but that's just what I've come to expect over the last 18 months or so from these budget Seikos. They really are quite remarkable. And the bracelet is actually alright for this price point, I suppose. Decent level of finishing there. Nice mixture of brushing, a little bit of polishing on that kind of half center link as well. Hollow end links as you saw, and we've got the standard Seiko double security clasp here, but it is of course only a press clasp at this price. But at this price point I can forgive this one a number of sins which I couldn't really forgive the SKX. So there is the watch on my 7-inch wrist, and well, gorgeous was the word I used in the intro. It is stunning. Love the distortion you get from that box domed Hardlex on the dial, the Hardlex around the bezel as well. Just gorgeous looking. Looks a lot more expensive I think than this one is, but as you can see there, it's glossy, it's very shiny. Shiny gloss black dial, shiny bezel, so you're gonna have some difficulties with this one in direct sun. It's not gonna be as super legible as some other pieces at this price point, but I can forgive it. Love this gold one. This was definitely the one I was interested in, with the gilt hands, gilt markers, and that kind of yellow gold toned markers on the bezel there. Just beautiful. And zoomed out for a little more perspective, 42 and fairly chunky at 14mm, but I think those little short lugs, 47mm lugs, mean this one's going to wear a lot better than those dimensions suggest. You know, the bracelet's a little bit chunky for my taste. I would have preferred a 22 down to 18 or maybe even 20mm lug widths to begin with, but can't really complain, and hopefully that slight chunkiness of the bracelet will be remedied when I get it off this bracelet and onto a few alternate strap choices. Let's start with a few NATOs. Now, all three of these NATOs today are from Monkey Swag out of the UK. You can find a specific video I did when I had the SNZ G13 when I reviewed a bunch of Monkey Swags. Pretty high quality NATO gear. I think this one colour matched nicely, the kind of olivey with a touch of gold there complementing the gold on the dial. Well, you can bring it down with a touch of brown. I'm perhaps not as convinced by this one as I was when I laid it out earlier. But this one is probably my ultimate NATO. It pretty much goes with anything. All black brushed hardware, really kind of giving this one a bit of a stealth look. But to be honest, the strap I've most been looking forward to getting this one on is the Uncle Seiko Tropic strap. Look at that. I think the aesthetic of the Tropic suits perfectly where this watch is going, that kind of 1950s style. Also takes a chunk of weight off it. On the Uncle Seiko Tropic, this watch drops down to bang on 100 grams, which is I think a much nicer weight for an everyday wear piece. You can get it wet because it's a rubber strap, and I think very, very nice. Looks just about spot on. I think this one is going to stay on the Tropic strap from now on. Moans and niggles then. Well, I've kind of intimated most of them already. The lack of screw down crown slightly freaks me out, especially on a watch that claims to have 100 meters of water resistant. I'd be a little more reluctant getting this one wet than I would a similar watch with a screw down crown. But most of the niggles and moans that I've had about Seikos, and specifically the SKX at $200, I can kind of forgive on this one because it is a chunk of cash less. At $130, I can forgive the hollow end links, I can forgive that pressed clasp, and I can forgive the Hardlex crystal, especially as it is that lovely boxed dome style. I can also forgive the 7S36's lack of hand winding and hacking. Never much of an issue for me anyway, certainly not at $130 US. And another kind of high level wrist shot just to finish then today. So my favourite Seiko, possibly, let's see, time will tell whether this one can wrestle the crown from my current bow being the SKX013, the little guy. This one's certainly a bigger, slightly chunkier watch, but does that look like $130 worth? I don't think so. That is gorgeous. So there you have it, the SNZH57, aka the Seiko 55 Fathoms. I'm in love. I think this is my favourite Seiko so far. At the moment, currently even outshining my love for my SKX013. I'm still not sure why I didn't pick one up earlier on. I think I was intimidated by that 42mm diameter, but I should have known better. Seikos always wear much smaller, much better than those dimensions could suggest. Am I going to mod it? I don't know. Let's find out in due course. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.